Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Scoop. I am your host, Maercy Campion, and today we'll be discussing the topic of training for high school football in season and for the off season. We will cover the main points about the importance of training and how both training and practice could reduce injuries. To discuss this topic, Mr. Plack joins me for this episode. Mr. Plack has been a teacher here at PTHS for 11 years and is currently a special ed teacher. He is also the head football coach for the Peters Township High School team. He has led our football program for the past 2 years, and this year the team went to the semifinals. But before being the head coach here at PTHS, he had previous experience. He spent 5 seasons as an assistant coach for Peters Township. He was an assistant coach at Bethel Park. He spent 2 seasons as an offensive coordinator at Ringgold and 5 years being the head coach at South Fayette. So let's get started with the first question. Why did you decide to become a football coach?
I think it dates back to actually the original time was just helping my little brother. My dad was always a coach, helping my little brother's baseball team out. I kind of liked it, and then obviously I wanted to be a teacher. I love teaching, and I think coaching is just an extension of that. So truly everything I've done, helping coaching. I've coached basketball, I've coached baseball, and I've coached football for over 20 years now. So it's something I just think it's an extension of being a teacher. And it's something I find very rewarding. So
with football, there's obviously the practices that are, would you say, long, like 2+ hours?
It's all different. We have a schedule that we follow. Our Monday practice is a little bit shorter. It's more, we're in the weight room. We get a good bit of lifting done Monday. We introduce our upcoming opponent on Monday as well through film sessions and whiteboard activities. And then we're probably on the field on Monday for probably a little bit over an hour. That's about it. And then Tuesday and Wednesday are our big days. They're usually around 2 hours, maybe a little bit more with special teams. Thursday's a little bit shorter because you're preparing for this. We don't wear our lower pads, and we're preparing for our game on Friday. So we're usually probably about an hour and 40 minutes. And Saturday is more film work and in the weight room and JV games. So truly Tuesday and Wednesday are our big days where we're looking at 2+ hours.
And in your response, you said something about like special schools or teams. How does a practice change for a school like Bethel Park, one of our big rivals?
True. I mean, and like I said, we have a framework for how we go through each week. Obviously, if we're playing a team like a Bethel Park, or the next week we play Mount Lebanon or Upper St. Clair, some of the points of emphasis may change for us. We still get into a practice. We still cover individual work. Each player plays a position on offense, a position on defense. So they'll work on skills for their trade, and then from there we do group work. If we're playing a team that runs the option, which can be tricky at times, we may spend a little more emphasis on group work towards that. If we're playing a team that throws the ball a lot, we may spend a little bit more time in group work that has our kids working on their pass drops or coverage, or when we have our offense throw against them. So it just depends on who we're playing. We do have a framework, but from week to week, teams are better in certain aspects. We may more attention to detail may be there.
So, like you said, with different schools, it may change a little. How did your practices change for the semifinals?
The framework changed because we truly don't find out who we play until Monday night. We're normally, we've already started working on the following week, Saturday and Sunday. Coaches, we have a game plan done on Sunday. Monday, we show it to the kids. Well, we didn't know who we were playing until Monday evening. So obviously we're down in the office downstairs until 3 in the morning, and then we came in the next day because we had to have everything ready for the students Tuesday at 2:30, right after school. So the framework changed a little bit. It got a little bit compressed, but it was still, Tuesday we still went through all the stuff we normally would do. Just for the coaching staff, we had a lot of work to do up front, and at the time we had an idea of who we were playing, one of 2 teams, so we prepared for both of them. Okay. But it was just, things got a little compressed for us, but the kids, for the most part, was the same.
How would you say practice and conditioning differentiate?
For us, it truly doesn't. Like, we do some conditioning obviously in the spring, part of our program, a great deal of it in the summer, getting ready to get out on the field with pads. But the way we practice, we try to be very up-tempo. The kids are moving all the time. We have a segment timer that keeps me on track, because sometimes I'll let periods of practice go over. But we have a segment timer, that big horn that goes off. So I know it's time to go to the next period. So usually our practices, probably around 20 to 24 periods. Each one, it could be like between 5 and 10 minutes. So boom, we're moving to the next one. I try to tell our coaches, be upbeat, energetic, get the kids moving around. We don't like anybody standing around. So we try to use our practices as conditioning. You know, at the end of the practice, our kids are exhausted. So we don't have to go out and do the, the running afterwards. We've done everything during practice, and all of our kids are moving. So now there are some days where, like Mondays, we don't do a lot of that. So we will lift. We'll be on the field. It'll be more cerebral. We'll be talking about what the team's going to do, and these are our checks. Here's how we're going to run our base runs. So Monday we will do a little conditioning towards the end of practice. But Tuesday and Wednesday we're just trying to fly around and keep everything upbeat. So we hit a lot of that during practice.
If you condition, like you said, during the season, how would you get the football players to condition off season? Like how do you condition for off season?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we have a lifting program. We actually started last week, our weight training program. At the end of every, we're working with weights. Not right now, but in the next couple of weeks, we start our agilities. We do more in the winter. We have dot drills. We have a lot of jump roping. We do a lot of ladder drills. We work the steps a lot of plyometrics, things like that. As the weather breaks, we're able to get outside. And then as we get closer to summer, maybe late April, May, we start working some conditioning, because it's at that time where we start going competing against other schools. We work something called 7-on-7, where it's just like passing camps. So we're out, the kids are running around. So obviously if they're going to be doing that physical activity, we want them to be conditioned to run. And so we'll start conditioning at that time. And in summer we have a huge conditioning program that we do 2 to 3 days a week, a running program on the track to get the kids prepared. So in the off season, we'll hit on the agilities first, and then late April going into summer, we really work on our endurance with running and moving around.
How do you build the endurance in the off season?
Sure. In the off season, what we do is initially our running program is everything is, I believe it's 1,800 meters is our running program. And the first day we run 6 300-meter runs, and they're timed. So our bigger guys, our offensive linemen, they have to run at a certain time. Our linebackers, fullbacks, our middle-sized body type guys, they run at a faster time. And our skill guys, your receivers, defensive backs, running backs, they've got to be the fastest. So they're timed runs. We do those, and then from there, those 6 300, they change. They go maybe 4 300, that gets you to 1,200, and then we run a couple 200s.
Okay.
And then it goes down to a 300, 200s, 100s, and it goes down to 50s on the field. So we break it down. We go longer distance, and as we get closer to season, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. Because our guys, they don't run 300 meters on the football field. Yeah. They do spurts of 20 yards, 30 yards, 50 yards, 5 yards. So we want everything to get in shape and get down to smaller, faster, and we have less break in between. Okay. So we run a 300, we may have like a minute and a half, 2 minute break in between. When we're running 50s, we're about 35 seconds in between. So we just try to prepare the kids that way.
You were talking about with the running and the times that like your offense men were timed different and then your middle men were timed different. Does practice different for people for their positions?
Conditioning is different because everyone's body's built different. We have a kid that can play wide receiver and run down the field, where I have a guy that plays left tackle for us. That's not where his skill set is. His skill set is using leverage and pushing people around. He's not going to run. So we do understand that we have different times for that. Practice conditioning, is that what you're asking about? Like you answered the conditioning part. Like, would practice itself be different for different positions in the football? Oh yes, yeah. We start every practice where we split our team in half, and our older kids, they'll work on their offense. Our linemen will go with the lineman coaches. Our quarterbacks come with me, running backs go, and everyone works on their particular position. Drills. to enhance their skill set. And then from there, we may get the quarterbacks and running backs together, and we work on our handoffs, our mesh points, and things like that. Then quarterbacks might go with wide receivers. Our linemen are down there. They're working on run game. They're working on pass protection. So yeah, everyone's a little bit different. Then our young kids are over on the defensive side, and they're working on, our D-backs are working on their backpedaling, their change of direction. Linebackers are working on staying square. Defensive linemen are watching the ball, getting off. So everyone works on their individual drills, and then we start coming together in groups, and then we work on run game together, and then the whole team.
Okay.
And then we switch. Then the young kids go over offense, older kids go defense, and we run through it again. So everyone's working on their positions every day practice. It's not like we have 25 wide receivers. We have 8 wide receivers here and 10 wide receivers playing over there. So everyone's working, which is part of less condition. Everyone's working hard during practice. They're all sweating. They're all working through everything. So everyone's a little bit different. It takes a lot of time, and we have 11 coaches. So we have guys that are able to cover all these guys, and they're expected to put these guys through a workout.
Now, like you were saying, the different people go with the wide receivers and then the quarterbacks.
Backs, right? Yes.
How do you set goals? Like, would you set goals individually or for the entire group? How would you set goals for the football players?
Right. Obviously, you have individual goals for every player. You sit down and talk with them about that before the season. The team has goals. Are we going to be conference champions? Do we want to go play at Heinz Field? Is this a state championship team? And it boils down to we have to win Friday night. So our goal as a team is to go 1-0 each week. It's as simple as it can be. We can't look too far ahead. So that's our team goal. But position-wise, if we're playing Bethel Park, we have a goal for our defense is to be able to stop their run game, usually, and stop their play-action pass. If we're playing another team, we may have a goal for our offense to be able to throw the ball a little bit more effectively. So there's goals throughout the program and throughout the season, but the overall goal as a team is to go 1-0 each week. But we do have individual goals. Our quarterbacks, we want them to achieve at this level, and we work on that individual sessions at practice, group sessions. Coaches talk about that on Saturday and Sunday over the weekend. We do a lot of it. We're in here at 5:45, 6 a.m. on both those days. We like to meet because we have families. We like to meet and get out of there about noon or 1 o'clock and get home to our families. They're playing other sports and they're doing other activities. So we do a lot of that, and then we just prepare that way. What does defense have to do better, and we set those goals. So I think anything you do, you got to be goal oriented, and it differs from time to time.
Like you're saying, the 1-0 mentality. After a game on Friday that you've already played the team, let's say you were to lose, would your practice change on Monday, like to help achieve better things and then improve upon the next opponent?
Again, the framework doesn't change. However, the emphasis does. Even a game, if you win, if you beat a team, you always look at what do we do well, what can we improve on, even in a win, and especially in a loss. We all understand that. So we'll take a look at those points of emphasis on what we can improve on, and we try to incorporate it in the practice the next week. If there's something we think that we can do better at, we take a look at is it the coaching staff, or we're not really understanding how to implement something? Are there different ways of teaching that individually? Do we need to get together as a group and go and drill some work, and then we hit that during team? So there's always a way to get better. These are the things that keep me up at night. I lay there in bed and I think about, okay, how can we get better at this? Can this coach work on this? Do we have to work together? So even in a win or a loss, the framework stays the same. However, there's different points of emphasis that we can build on and get better.
Now, there are two separate teams. There's the JV and the varsity. Is there a different emphasis for JV than varsity, or are they the same?
They're the same. The overall goal is they are the same. Over the last couple of years, we have been, I don't know if it's fortunate or whatever it is, but we've had a lot of freshmen and sophomores that start for us on a Friday night. So whether you're a 9th grader, a 10th grader, 11th grader, you have opportunity to play Friday night and be a part of that. For those that don't, they may be deemed JV players. We truly look at it as a team, and those that don't play Friday night play Saturday. Hopefully this upcoming season we'll have a JV A and a JV B. B will play on Mondays. So we're getting to the point where we have enough ball players that we can and be safe about it. Of course, I don't want someone playing a lot on Friday night to go into a game Saturday morning. Same with Saturday, I don't want them playing Monday. So we have enough that we could break our team up into 3 parts. And as a JV player, if you're a JV player that doesn't play a lot of Friday nights, it's development for you. We practice all week, and a lot of times they end up being our scout players, where they're running the other team's offense or they're running the other team's defense. But on Wednesday, those big days of practice, Wednesday we do a JV Wednesday, where instead of them being working on their individual skills, we'll get the JV offense together. Because all week they've been running like Bethel Park's offense. Yeah. So we'll run our offense with what the Bethel Park JV team will be going against. So we spend some time with them on Wednesdays, preparing them for their Saturday JV game. Because most of the time, they work on individual, but they get lumped into being the scout team offense and the scout team defense. But we do spend time with them on Wednesdays preparing them. So, and Saturday the kids have fun. Yeah, they're out there, and it's their time to run the ball and score touchdowns and things like that. And they're not being tackled by a 12th grader and 11th grader. So they really enjoy that. And we as coaches, we're there to watch. And there's been multiple occasions at all the different schools I've been at where you look at a kid on a Saturday morning and say, maybe we can use him. Maybe he can play special teams for us on Friday nights. So it's fun watching those games. I know those kids have fun with it, but they are developing, and the JV program is a great way to do that.
Like you were saying how some freshman or sophomore would play on the varsity team. Would you say like it's more beneficial to start on the JV team than varsity, or it's kind of like we evaluate you, and if you're great, we'll put you on the varsity team than JV? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a year-long evaluation. We're evaluating kids right now. In the weight room, and truly right now it's their work ethic. Mm-hmm. It's their competitive nature. Usually those kids that play Friday nights, they compete in the weight room every day, and you see that kid, and you're like, he's ready to compete. He's going to compete in the spring. He's going to compete in 7-on-7. He's going to be ready to go Friday night. You may have a freshman or sophomore come in that it's a struggle to get them there. They do their workout, but they're missing reps. They're just not ready. Mm-hmm. They're young. They're immature, and hopefully that comes through watching the other kids. But it's obviously better to play on Friday night. Let's get that out in the open. You got a couple thousand people in the stands on Friday night. Saturday afternoon, there's a couple hundred, if that. But it's still playing football. It's still same. The periods are the same 12 minutes, 4 quarters, and you play to win. So. Okay.
So we were now talking about the JV and the varsity and the training and the conditioning. Do you practice or condition to help prevent certain injuries that the football players would most likely see?
Sure. We do a little bit of both. You said practice and condition, so I think those are 2 different things. We really don't see one injury over another. There may be one year we have kids have a bunch of ankle injuries. Mm-hmm. Maybe one year we have a knee or 2. Obviously elbows, shoulders, they're all major injuries. But conditioning-wise, our weight training, we do a lot of weight training things. We work on the core. We do a lot of like rotator cuff stability type lifts and things like that to build up everything around there. We work the hamstrings real well. So we do a lot of preventative stuff right now in the spring and everything. Practice-wise, I know a big emphasis has been on concussions in all sports. There's a lot of sports that number-wise have more concussions than football, but we do know football is deemed to be the most physical. We wear the most equipment. Mm-hmm. So there's things with helmets. Helmets have come a long way in the last 10 years. We've changed our way of tackling. When I played football, you were taught to put your face right in someone's chest, and that was to keep your head up. But there's a lot of neck injuries and a lot of impact on your head. Then you were taught to get your head across, and then you get knees to the head. The Seattle Seahawks have really come out with a way of tackling that a lot of teams are going on, and it's called hawk tackling, and there's a bunch of different ways that. But we track the near hip. We don't put our head across the body. We're looking at safer ways to tackle, safer ways to play football. even practice when I played, I mean, we tackled all the time. Now we don't do it as much. We work on form tackling. We work on that way of the hawk tackling. We do drill work for it. But when we get together as a group, we'll just embrace the guys, hold them up, wrap them up, and we don't take everyone to the ground. So we're really working on that. At that time, you're working on your reads, things like that. But tackling is done a different way. So from conditioning to the way we practice, we're always looking at limiting injuries, obviously. But they're going to happen from time to time.
How would a practice change for someone who is injured?
Sure. The first thing we do is they got to meet with our trainers. That's the problem. Everyone wants to be. They don't want to miss practice. They don't want to go to a trainer. But coach, my leg. Did you see the trainer? No. Well, you have to go see the trainer, or now you're missing practice. If you go see the trainer, there's a lot of things they can do before practice. A lot of rehab before practice and after practice. And that's another thing. Kids don't want to be there an extra 20 minutes. But if they have an injury and if they want to play Friday night, they've got to get that taken care of. So if it's a lower body injury, they'll rehab that before practice and after practice. Our trainers, they do a great job. They're still able to get out on the field. If it's a bad injury, maybe they can just do some individual skill work and maybe not be involved in team if we know they're not going to play Friday night. But we still want them out there being conditioned and doing things. So every injury is different. The length of it, and how much you're able to work. Now, if someone's missed a week, we bring them back slowly. There's a protocol for that where they may get out there for a little bit. We try to keep a helmet off them.
Okay.
So if they get out there and they have the helmet on, some kids try to sneak in. So we take their helmet off them. They're out there, the rest of the pads, and they work on everything. They get their conditioning done, but they're not allowed in any physical activity. So there's just a bunch of different ways to look at that depending on what the injury is and the time frame.
You said before that you kind of hold some kids back from varsity because they might be tackled preventing them from getting tackled by another senior.
Right.
Would injuries change from JV to varsity, or would you see them say they're pretty consistent?
I would say it's consistent. We obviously, anytime we're doing, when camp starts, you get the pads on. We always try to put good against good, and kids get really excited and pumped up, and they want to hit each other. We make a very conscious effort to put seniors and juniors together, sophomores and freshmen together. When we don't ever want to put a smaller ninth grader against a big senior. But if we have a kid that's ready to play on Friday night and he's a freshman, then he's got to work against other seniors. So it just depends on who that player is. But we understand if we have a young freshman that's 140 pounds, we're not going to put him up against a 240-pound guy. But injuries, I think they're consistent. JV varsity, 7th, 8th grade, youth football, I think you see the same type of injuries.
Okay, so with conditioning, when someone has an injury, do they condition different? Like, how do you prevent in conditioning for the injury?
So when someone's injured, how do they condition, correct? And again, is it a lower body injury where they're unable to run? Well, then they would just get rehab. They can work their core more. When they're ready to come back to run, they work on maybe running a 40-yard at half speed. They'll work on maybe some training on a track running around, and then when they're ready to run, they'll work on faster sprint. They just they bring them back slowly into that. If they have an upper body injury, again, they'll get rehab for that before practice, and then they should be out there conditioning, running, just staying in shape. So it all depends. Obviously, if they have a lower body injury, they can be in the weight room with us and do our upper body workout. Upper body injury, maybe they can do the lower body. So it all depends what it is, and the trainers will take care of, if they're unable to do a bench press or a shoulder press, they have a shoulder problem, they'll do our lower body workout, and then the trainers will do physical therapy and rehab on their upper body. So again, it just depends.
It seems we have run out of time for this episode of The Scoop. I would like to thank Mr. Plack for coming on the show today to discuss the topic of training for high school football during the season and during the off season. We covered the main points of the importance of training and injuries from football. Finally, I would like to thank the media department.